Hello, guys. I've always been really intrigued by Brad Pitt and the way he's able to change his energy when he acts. And as part of my reading sessions, which I do about extraordinary people, I wanted to choose Brad Pitt because of this ability, this unique quality that he has as an actor, as a creator of energy and energetic field, energetic atmosphere that pulls you in as the viewer, and you start to believe what he wants you to believe. And it's not just the mimics, it's not just, the expressions or the makeup, but it is his actual energy which is changing and which is so vibrant. And I would love to learn from him what he does, how did he get here, what his karmic journey is. Maybe we will see what we will be allowed to receive today and learn about ourselves through the example and through the karmic journey of Brad Pitt. So let's start. So first of all, let's see who Brad Pitt is today in his present incarnation, and then let's dive deeper into his karmic journey and what led to this present life. Now, if you want to practice as well, just look at the pictures and allow any sensations or ideas or just feelings come up, and maybe you will interpret them correctly, or sometimes we just don't know how to interpret the data that our subconscious gives us. So don't be judgmental with yourself, just allow information to flow, feelings, information, whatever comes to you. Okay, so let's start then. The energy that I'm sensing here, these are his older photos. Let's look at this. Is a person, a soul, who enjoys attention. It is a self-confident soul. He's an emotional type. He can be very passionate about things, even sometimes to the point of almost being carried away. In a romantic way, it's a passion. So he likes to do things with passion, with a lot of energy, with that spark in it. And what I sense is that he's very aware of his ability to manipulate his own energy. So he knows how to use his charm, how to convince people, how to have an effect on them, not in a manipulative or negative way. But he's a social person. It's interesting that he feels like he can be an extrovert just as well as an introvert. So he's very flexible in this way. Now, going back in time to his childhood, I don't sense great trauma or anything related to that. It feels like he had a normal childhood. Let's see younger pictures. He feels like he was a balanced kid. Yeah. So you can see that he is already very aware of his energy and how he affects people, and he can also reach his goals with just using his energy. He is a very headstrong person. He knows what he wants, or he knows what he feels, and he's an individual, an extraordinary personality. He his freedom, and he will follow his freedom. He doesn't like to be put in a box. He's thinking for himself from the early age. He has his own opinions. He's not a conflicting person. He's quite a peaceful and cooperative person. He is a good communicator. And since he feels people very well, he can achieve what he wants easily without really being egoistical or anything. He's not an egoistical person, but he knows where he wants to go, and he will find a way. He doesn't go into an open conflict or a fight without a reason. But even since this early age, I can feel strong loyalty in him. So he's loyal to his friends, he's loyal to his ideas, and there's something that triggers him very much, and that makes him that pisses him off. It's injustice. So that's when he goes into a fight. So he's not afraid of fight, but he's a peaceful person, and it's just not necessary. I can feel that he, even at this age, he has his own ways, his own ideas, and he's gonna go there. If it's possible, he's going to go there in peace. He will find a way. But if he needs to, it's not that he's not a rebel, but he's a free soul. That's the best expression. He's a very free soul. He wants to experience. So he's a soul who primarily wants to experience. He wants to live. And through his experience, he wants to come to his own conclusions. So freedom is an essential part of his soul. He likes to experiment. He's a playful soul. This belongs to his freedom, to his sense of freedom. He's playful, he's funny, he can be, if he wants to be, he can be very charming and popular. And he is a positive person. People like him. He's just naturally lovable. At the same time, he doesn't feel like this person who's craving for attention and confirmation and validation from others. He doesn't do that to be the number one guy at school or wherever. Learning is, as I said, he's stubborn. He's not the kind of person who would learn things that's not interesting to him. It feels like he has his passions that come and sometimes they go. And then he throws himself into that. So he's really he's an optimistic, idealistically romantic person to some degree when it comes to his passions, to his projects, whatever is his passion at the moment. But he's also prone to a bit get confused and misled by his own ideas. So these ideas could be very rosy, very idealistic, and that's not always the case. So it's obvious with his relationships. So here we can see that he's conscious of his aura, of his energy. He's conscious of what he's doing, and he's enjoying. He is there to enjoy himself, to try out things. It's not just about fame. He enjoys attention and he can deal with that. He's very good at managing the situation, the fame and the attention. It's his environment because, and that's where his previous lifetimes come into play. He is familiar with popularity. He is familiar with great attention and also familiar with wealth. So it's not his first lifetime. Now let's see how he evolved as a person in this life, in this lifetime. So here we can see a person, yes, he can manage his life in that environment very well, and his career. He knows the pitfalls of that business, not just because he learned that in this lifetime, but he feels it. He knows how to get around in that environment, getting what he wants. And what he wants is really experimenting with different things, trying out new things. He doesn't want something that he's bored with. So I can imagine that playing a superhero in a usual superhero action movie is not a thing for him. There's nothing new. He likes flying, this freedom of experimentation and new things. So he's really not someone you would put in a box. He doesn't allow that. He knows just too much. Yeah, now the relationships. For that, we need to go deeper into his past, and I mean karmic past, because what we are experiencing here concerning his relationships is a person who is looking, he was popular, I can tell it, but it's really not a secret that he was popular with girls, women, but he's not a guy who just plays around and uses women. He enjoyed their attention. He enjoyed new things, but this is a soul who is very loving and who is looking for a partner. He's not looking for a wife, for the mother of his children. He is looking for an equal partner who inspires him, who sparks that light just like he does. In a way, he's looking for someone like him in a woman's body and with a woman's soul. So he's looking for himself kind of in a female form. And whenever he meets women who somehow have that special something, that level of freedom or that sense or illusion of freedom, as I said, he's a free spirit. He likes to fly. He's like a bird. Now these women who give him this feeling that we could fly together, we could be like one soul, they inspire him and he idealizes them. he sees what he wants to see. And he can be really fond of them. He can really love them, truly deeply bond with them, but he doesn't realize, or that's my sensation, and I can be wrong, of course, because this is really an experimentation with energy reading. Now, he doesn't really realize that the picture that he sees is a picture that he himself created. And these women are not like he expects them to be. Not that, so he's trying to pull them up. He's trying to kind of teach them to fly. So take them up with him. But sometimes these women don't feel safe and secure in that environment, because this is a very free, dynamic soul, a confident soul who has a lot of experience from the past, a lot of wisdom and understanding. And that's why for him flying is absolutely natural. And I'm speaking in terms of the soul, of the spirit. And most of those women felt insecure without a ground underneath. So it was just too dynamic for them. It's not that he left them, but they were not able to fly with him. And he just got tired of trying to pull them up. And it created conflicts and tension, because they just couldn't, they didn't feel well and secure. They tried to pull him down and limit him in ways to ensure their own sense of security. And that didn't go well with him. He's just not able to be limited. He's, as I said, a free spirit, and that's why control or being controlled is the least thing that he would want or tolerate. He doesn't tolerate that. He's a very optimistic guy, but he has his scars, and he has some memories from the past. Not, I'm meaning past lives, but not in a way most probably that he remembers his past lives, but he learned the lessons from those lives, and they are deep. Now, after reading the energy of Brad Pitt's present personality, present incarnation, I wasn't quite satisfied, because not with himself, with myself, because I felt that there was so much depth to this person, to this soul, and that there was a long karmic journey behind what he has become in this life. And I felt that we can learn incredibly much if we see the journey, if we see this main direction of this soul's karmic pathway, and understand what led to him being like he is today, being who he is now, with all that wisdom. Because Brad Pitt's soul is actually, it has a lot of wisdom to offer. So I wanted to go deeper into that. First, what I did 2 sessions, 2 hours each, trying to feel the energy of his higher self, of the soul, not just the present personality, but what drives this soul? What is it focused on? The first thing that I felt very strongly is that this is a free spirit, as I mentioned, and this free spirit is about learning, experiencing, acting. I mean, being in the now and experiencing life through living it, through acting, through doing things. He is like a player, like a soccer player or a football player. He loves to be out on the field and playing the game, experiencing, experimenting with different things, discovering things. He doesn't like boredom. He's a very dynamic soul. This is in his nature, this dynamic, intense energy. He is also a very emotional soul. Bonding and connecting is very crucial for him. And as I looked into this soul's main driving energies, I felt that he chooses times throughout the history where big changes happen, where there is a lot of dynamics changes, and he can be part of it. He can take a role in that. He can actually influence things and change things. So he's a game changer by nature. And he goes into these lifetimes full of this energy, full of this charge, wanting to make a change. Because he is a free spirit, his main goal by doing these changes, by being part of this evolution in these different times where these are the turning points in history. So his reason is to open up doors. He wants to experience more freedom. He is against control, and he wants humanity, to help humanity. This soul wanted to help people, help communities, help society to open up to new ideas. So he was bringing in all this energy. It's not just one lifetime, but it's very, very typical of him to be born into this time. Big changes going on. These are unstable times, and he chooses key roles sometimes, and many times he chooses to be born into wealthy families, not because of just wanting to feel rich, but because this provides him a tool. He uses these tools, wealth, status, popularity, even his influence, power. He uses these to promote these changes, to be able to, he leverages these tools to make a bigger change. Now, as I started to look into the actual incarnations, what I felt is that in the beginning, he was a bit naive. So the same energy was there, wanting to free the people. He's a very empathic soul, so this is important for him. He's also a soul who loves to fly, so he chooses purposes which are higher than just the everyday personal egoistical purposes of humans. So he chooses these idealistic purposes of bringing freedom, bringing happiness, bringing equality, etc., etc. These are his natural needs. That's why he flows into that direction. And as he came with these really noble and positive ideas, he had to learn that humanity and many people were not ready to be free. Many people were not ready to give up their control, and many people were not ready to feel free. So they kind of wanted to be under some kind of control. So they needed a certain type of control because that's how they were raised. That was part of the culture in those times. So as he burst into this field, okay, as this game changer, he naturally brought with him these positive energies. He could influence people very easily. So even when he was born into lower classes, because he was in many cases, but it always served his purpose, he was able to move masses of people. He was able to convince them or just pull them onto his side, not manipulating them, but by using his natural charisma and his natural dynamic energy. A big part of this energy is hope. He is the kind of soul who always sees hope, who always sees and doesn't give up. He always sees that there is a blue sky above the dark clouds. So imagine a historical scene where people are suppressed and being controlled by few, and kind of giving up hope or doubting whether there is hope, whether that's all that life can offer them. And then comes a soul with all this passion and energy and belief and faith that there is more to us, there is more to life, and he loves life. This is a soul who loves life, the beauty of life, the love and connections and freedom and free ideas and music and so much more. He loves to open up to life. And that's when he's in his element, when he is out there and using this energy. People naturally just go to the light that he emanates. They start to believe themselves. They start to have that hope. And he's using his powers in different lifetime. He has a different amount of power because he's born in different classes. But what's common is that people are coming to him, supporting him. They are loving him. So he is very popular. He can become very popular very fast. And he uses them not for power itself, but for promoting these idealistic ideas. And as I said in the beginning, that was the problem. He didn't know, wasn't quite aware of the dirty games that other people were playing on the same field. So he's a fair player. He's very much for justice and, as I said, freedom and equality as a soul, because these are his needs. But he had to learn it on his own skin. How much people are against these ideas many times. He sacrificed a lot. So he suffered a lot during these lifetimes because he had to learn about loss a lot. He lost a lot of people. He had to learn about being betrayed. He had to learn about cruelty, manipulation, abuse, these power games, the dirty games. So he learned and learned. And what's really unique about him is that he didn't give up. He's an optimistic soul, even though he went through very intense lifetimes. Sometimes really short, sometimes incredibly intense. Because just imagine times of great changes and these power games. So the things that happen there are rarely pleasant. So he sacrificed a lot, and most of all what he sacrificed was his personal life, because he could never be 100% there in his personal life. So he never really had a kind of what we would call 100% normal family or something. It's not that he didn't have a family, but his relationships and his personal life suffered a lot because his soul was devoted to these greater issues, to changing the world, to be in action, to be this key figure, to be the leading figure. And it caused him a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, also this feeling of loss, of not having that. Also the pain of not being able to support those people who were the closest to him, to be right there for them. And it caused tension in this soul. So he had to learn a lot. And this is the issue that he brought with himself. Now many of these changes, these lifetimes, were about politics. And he was a great supporter of great, really iconic people. One of them being Lincoln, President Lincoln. And he liked to be born into their environment, so be really as close as possible. In that lifetime, in that particular lifetime, he used his wealth, his power, and his status to support Lincoln, to support the cause, because he believed in that. He truly believed in that. And he didn't feel like they were rivals. He's not a jealous person, not at all. On the contrary, he loved to be born, to have these lifetimes around these iconic souls, these people who changed history, because he learned from them, he got inspired by them. He, as I said, free spirit, he could fly with them. And that is a huge desire within the soul, to be able to fly, but also to have others to fly with him. And that takes us back to the present lifetime, where there is this issue with relationships. It feels like the present lifetime is really not about solving big karmic issues. It's really about having some fun and enjoying life, because most of his lifetimes were very intense, involving a lot of learning. You know, just think about how hard it is to learn to play these power games, but still staying yourself, still fighting for the right cause, for humanity, for justice, for freedom, for getting rid of control and limitations and all that. So that's why he's a very tolerant person, because he likes freedom. That's why he tolerates others who are different, others who are maybe better than him, and he learns from them. And he loves to be inspired. But since these lifetimes were so intense and so painful in many, many cases, that's what made him naturally, instinctively very wise. But they also just needed, so he needed a kind of relaxation. In a sense, he wanted a lifetime of just playfulness, just really playing around, enjoying, creating, and a lifetime where he could experience the part which he didn't allow himself fully to experience. This is about family and relationships, personal life. Now that's a hard knot for him. And I might be wrong. Remember, it's an experimental energy reading. But what I sensed from his previous lifetimes was exactly this problem of his energy being too vibrant, too dynamic, too free. It needed a partner who has the same level of freedom, the ability, the flexibility, and the confidence not to stay on the ground, but to be able to fly. Now, he's an interesting personality, because even though he's so free and flying and experimenting, he's also a very down-to-earth kind of guy. And this is how this soul is. It's an amazing balance between these two seemingly contradicting qualities. So he can stay in balance while being this down-to-earth guy, but at the same time not being average, not staying in this box how people should be, but going out there, experiencing, doing, just being in the middle of it. And that's a hard challenge in relationships. So he brought this desire, this lacking from the previous lifetimes, because he couldn't devote himself fully to relationships and family. And he always tried to attract people, partners, who were equally partners in the best sense of the word, who were equal and who were also interested in the same kind of expansion and movement and dynamics. Now, whenever he tried to fly and the partners just couldn't, because sometimes they didn't feel safe, much of their insecurities and fears just bound them down to the safe environment, to maybe it is limited, made of those ideas, but it's like a nest. It's still something safe, maybe not so comfortable anymore because they were growing out of this, but still it was something to hold on to, giving them a sense of security to a certain extent. And that's really hard for him to overcome, because he needs to fly, he needs to go out there. And that's what I sensed with his relationship with Angelina, that he was again at a point which is a recurring pattern, where he fell in love with someone, he projected his idealistic ideas on that someone, about them flying together, being partners, going, having the same level of freedom. And then realizing that the other person doesn't want to fly, or not at that speed, doesn't want to go that high. And he tried to pull them, or tried to find a balance between the two of them, but his energy would sooner or later just burst that balance, or what they tried to create there. And then he suddenly met a person. Angelina's energy is again an extraordinary energy, an extraordinary person. Her energy is about her need to feel life, but she feels life and she feels alive through intensity. So she needs very intense energies to feel alive. She's like a junkie. That's how I sense that. It's like an obsessive need for intensity in life. Intensity of experience, intensity of emotions, intensity. It doesn't matter if it's painful or it's bliss. It doesn't matter. What matters is this intensity. So she is kind of creating these energy spirals. The more intense it gets, the better it is. So she is again a very good manipulator of energy. So she can move around huge masses of energy. And she does that without really taking into account any rules or expectations, how she should behave or whatever. She's focused so much on this need to experience intensity, experience this being alive, that she just disregards rules, like they are not there. She won't be the person who would want to meet the expectations of others. No, when it comes to the need and it gets strong enough, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. She even sacrifices herself just to get... It's really a junkie kind of pattern there. But that's how I sense that. So when Brad Pitt felt that energy, this level of freedom that Angelina possessed, because she would just need that intensity, that spark, just like him. You know, that was something similar. That seemed to be similar. And he was attracted by this fearlessness. Now, Brad Pitt, as I said, went through a lot in his previous lifetimes, and that helped him to overcome most of the fears. So he had to face death in so many ways and forms. I mean violent death. That he lost his fear. He was no longer afraid of death. He was no longer afraid of lots of things. He wouldn't allow himself to be controlled by fear. Not even fear, because that's how important freedom is for him. And Angelina becomes fearless, and she is fearless, because her needs are just so strong that it would just blow up everything around her. Everything. Expectations, rules, fears, everything. And this fearlessness, this really extraordinary quality about her, this extraordinary freedom, it just, the two attracted each other incredibly. These two intense energy balls, like energy balls, they just boom, attracted each other very strongly. Now, what happens when these energies meet or collide even? They are in their core very different. Because Brad Pitt's energy, as I said, is about freedom, a free spirit. Angie's energies, even though they are fearless and they are just bursting through all obstacles, but she's very much controlled by her own ideas, by her own passions, by these vicious energy circles that she creates. It's, as I said, like a junkie is fully controlled by that addiction. She has a sort of addiction to this intensity of experience. And she couldn't, so if her energy is very turbulent, it's intense, that's true, but it's very turbulent, and her needs control her absolutely, fully. She cannot go against her own needs. She can't control her needs. She can't bring balance. Now, the dynamics of them is problematic, because in the beginning for Brad Pitt it seemed, or that's how I sensed that it felt like something really new, extraordinary, unusual, very inspiring, very freeing. It's a freeing feeling. But the turbulence just didn't have this consistency. So the freedom of expansion, it wasn't an expansion. It was these spirals, just one spiral after the other, and all pulling her down and binding her. It's like she's in a cage of her own needs, being pulled by these strings all the time. And it's chaotic. Now, Brad Pitt's energy is not chaotic at all. It is very much directed and conscious and aware and wise. So, and yes, and whenever Angelina feels any type of control or anyone trying to control her, that's just boom. She can't handle that. She just can't. It just explodes because she's not in control of her own needs. So her needs wouldn't allow anyone to control her. So that's how all efforts on Brad Pitt's part to try to bring some balance into this, they were doomed, because all these efforts for Angelina, they were like someone is trying to control her, someone is trying to tell her what to do or how to do that, someone is trying to take away her freedom. So it's kind of ironic and funny, but this time the dice just turned, and Brad found himself in the controlling role. Although he was not trying to control, he was just trying to balance things. And Angelina was in that other corner where she just wanted absolute freedom and no control, and no one tells me what to do and how to do it. And she expected Brad to support her in that. For Brad Pitt, it felt more like insanity because, as I said, he is a quite aware soul, and maybe subconsciously, maybe consciously, he kind of sensed the pattern of almost insanity. It's not that Angelina is insane in any way. No, she's not. But the pattern is so chaotic, so uncontrolled, so really out of control. It's all over the place. It's boom, energy just bouncing back and forth, and there's no consistency. There's no use for this energy. And he kind of sensed that, and he tried to correct that and help her, actually, to help her balance that out and get in control of her own energy. He didn't want to take control over her energy. He wanted to put her in control of her own energy. But that energy doesn't want to be controlled. That energy is at that state where it needs that chaos. It feeds off that chaos. It feeds off these energy spirals. Whether they are good or bad, whether they feel like joy or euphoria, or whether they feel like depression and end of the world, it doesn't matter. But the spiral itself, the intensity itself, this woo, 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 that's what's feeding her at this moment, at this level of her awareness and karmic journey. So that's a very intense karmic learning that Angelina is going through. And it was just a matter of time when these two strong energies will have to go apart, because Brad Pitt's energy and soul will not break into the pattern of someone else. And the same way Angelina's energy is, it has to go its own way. It has to go through its own learning process, its own turbulence to learn from that and to gain clarity. No one else can do that for her. And that's what I believe Brad Pitt had to learn. And he did that because, as I said, he's a wise, intuitive soul. Of course, his pain is again triggered, and it echoes, through the ages, through those old past lives, whenever his relationships suffered. He was not able to build up a harmonious, stable, and peaceful relationship. They were all moving around and crumbling or bursting with, into a conflict. So that's a repeating pattern, and that's why that pain resonated with the pain of those past experiences again and again. That true partnership, that true devoted relationship, even though he truly tried, he couldn't create it. But the reason for that is the type of energy that he possesses. Now, for him, that's why, for him, the ideal partner would be someone, I'm not saying like him, but in a sense, yes, in a sense with the same level of freedom and awareness and playfulness and energy like him. Otherwise, he always tries to pull these people up to his level. I'm not meaning these levels are worse and better, so it's not like a hierarchy or anything. It's just a level of freedom, like a bird wants to fly, and other birds don't like to fly, or not so high. They like to stay in the bush. They like to stay close to the ground, or some birds don't want to fly at all. So he's looking and hopefully not giving up that desire and hope that he would find that free soul that he's looking for. So this is an amazing karmic journey that we can learn from Brad Pitt. That's why I was so interested into looking into these previous lives and what he brought with him. What he can learn, what we can learn from him is this hope, this positive energy, knowing that there is a blue sky over the clouds, that okay, I couldn't do this lifetime, I maybe failed. He learned to fail, and he learned to stand up, dust himself, and start again, try again and again and again and again, because he's a player. He's, as I said, like a football player on the field. He couldn't do it once, okay, he would do it again. He would try again and fight harder and harder and harder until he does that, until he learns. Now, Brad Pitt is not the kind of fanatic person, not like a little bit of Tom Cruise, who is again a fighter, but he's in a rigid way. He's a very rigid kind of fighter. Brad Pitt is learning. He's not the aggressive or rigid fighter who would just bang against the wall again and again, but he's learning. He learned how to understand people and how he can survive in that environment, which is often negative or dangerous. He lived many lives in dangerous environments where people were interested in getting rid of him or, in his failure. So he learned that. And he still didn't lose his positive attitude and his positive relationship to people, to humanity, to living beings. So I find that amazing about him. Of course, as I said, this is an experimental energy reading, which I do to explore this territory of the human psyche, to learn more about myself and about human karma and human energy, and how we create the same patterns throughout the lifetimes, how we learn from that, how we break these patterns and create new patterns. And I'm really grateful to have this journey with Brad Pitt and his previous lifetimes. I hope you like